the defense case at this time, and I believe we're ready to call some more witnesses today. Attorney Schuchert, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Judge. The defense would call Investigator Reinerio. Hoffman to Berkeley Road, you could relatively walk undetected.
Yes.
Where did you start your walk?
Very close to, there's this small little shop area on the corner of East River Drive and Hoffman Road. I believe it's like Heritage Shops, something like that. It's right across from Ziggy's. And on the opposite side of the shops is a bridge. And basically it just has a little feeder to the trail right there.
And you said Ziggy's. Is that Ziggy's restaurant?
Yes.
How close did you start to where Nicole's body was found?
As I mentioned, the entrance to the fields to the feeder to the trail, and that would be if you were walking on the road and use the entrance, not like cutting through the fields or anything like that.
Would it be fair?
Of 2017.
And what were the conditions like?
It was a fairly nice day for January. It was 45 degrees. That's why I picked to do that day, because it was going to be warmer. But because of that, there was a lot of snow melting, so there was a lot of water, but then was also somewhat melted, so it was pretty icy. But other than that, it was a sunny, little bit breezy day.
Were you able to walk quickly, or did you have to walk slower?
Slower, because of the icy conditions.
And how long did it take you to walk from Hoffman Road to 2329 Berkeley Road?
58 minutes.
In reviewing this case, the field where Nicole's body was found, the entrance, was there a field to that, or a sign to that field?
There was, yes.
Which way was it facing?
It was facing directly to the road. So we had an opportunity to go to the fields with one of the officers and kind of check it out. And so that was one thing I specifically looked at, is I wanted to see if the sign was at an angle for either direction. It appeared to me to pretty much be facing directly to the road.
So essentially it was facing the opposite direction a street sign would be facing?
Yes.
What did that sign say?
It said private property and then something about violators being fined, but there was also some board in the middle where there had been other writing, but it was covered up.
Is there a street light above that entrance to the field?
No.
Where was the nearest street light?
I would say probably the closest one would have been before that, going to the east, which is on the corner of Hoffman Road and Bellevue Road.
So that area, the entrance to the field, it's fair to say it's pitch black at night?
Yes.
Is the entrance to...
No.
Now, you've been present through all of the testimony in this case, correct?
Correct.
And you sat through Doug Dietry's testimony, Lieutenant Kingston's, and Dallas Kennedy's testimony?
Yes.
Specifically, you heard about a conversation between Dallas and Doug where Dallas asked Doug what happened, and Doug said...
Objection, Your Honor. We're asking this witness about testimony of another witness. That's already hearsay evidence. Why are we reiterating through that? Those witnesses' testimonies stand for what they stand for.
This is...
Well, I don't know what the end of the question, I don't know what the question is. It may very well be going in that direction. Attorney Sugar, where are we going with this question?
First of all, it's in-court testimony, so it's not hearsay. Second of all, it's the fact that Investigator Reinerio was able to review video interviews to clarify some of that testimony.
That's hearsay. You can't call witnesses to talk about what other people said on video interviews.
It's about a lack of what was said, not what was said.
Come up. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a sidebar, so we didn't have to send you out. It's how to go about the questioning without inadmissible testimony. So I think we've worked out where
Thank you.
the proper line of questioning now. So you can go ahead, Attorney Sugar.
Thank you. Investigator Reinerio, did you review the video interview that had Lieutenant Kingston, Investigative Caters, and Douglas Dietrich?
I did.
In that video, did any law enforcement officer tell Mr. Dietrich that Nicole had been hit in the head?
No.
How long was that video?
3 hours and 8 minutes.
Investigator Reinerio, you were also asked to review the phone extraction of Douglas Dietrich, correct?
Correct.
What were you asked to look for?
A number of things, basically to just look through the phone and see what contents were on there. One of the things I looked through were images.
Did you find any images that caught your eye?
I did.
If you look at Exhibit 185 and 186,
Yes.
what are those?
Those are images that contain the field off of Hoffman where Nicole's body was found. They're aerial shots. They appear to be maybe like Google images.
So they're satellite photos?
Yes.
No, they're not right in, zoomed in on the field where a body was found, correct?
Correct.
But they're further back?
Yes. There's one that's closer and one that's further.
And you found those photos on Doug Dietrich's phone?
I did.
Judge, I would ask to admit Exhibit 185 and 186.
See those exhibits, please? And you've had a chance to view those, Attorney Lassay?
I had a chance to view them, but I don't believe there's been a proper foundation laid as to the context in which she found them, as to the date of the images, anything of that nature, Your Honor.
Can you lay a better foundation, Attorney Schuchert?
Judge, we laid that foundation with Tyler Bailing. That's why we specifically had asked that he downloaded Doug Dietrich's phone, where that phone extraction went, that it was put into evidence, and then it would have been provided to defense through discovery. Investigator Reinerio testified that she's been investigating this case. She looked through that phone extraction, and she looked specifically in images.
So she reviewed the extraction that the officer had done with Mr. Dietrich's phone, and you found these two particular
Correct.
images? All right, I'm going to find there's been a sufficient foundation, and the court will receive 185 and 186.
I would ask to publish these, Judge.
They can be published big screen?
Yes.
All right, let's publish them on the big screen.
So again, Investigator Reinerio, these photos are further back satellite photos of the general area of the field, correct?
Correct.
What exhibit is this?
185.
And then where is the field where Nicole's body was found?
I guess to explain, there are two bodies of water there. The one that's more odd-shaped to the left. If you were to go a little bit lower than that, you will see one field, then just a little bit of dirt, and then another field.
Do we have a pointer? It's going to be a lot easier to follow.
Yeah.
Judge, I was going to use the mouse.
Oh,
Oh,
all right.
okay. Well, if you bring the mouse a little bit lower and then cross over that dirt area that you can see a little bit further, and then that is actually the house that's 1374 Hoffman, I believe, so it would have been a little bit lower. So you're in the general area just to the right. Yes.
And this image was found on Doug Dietrich's phone?
It was.
And then is this exhibit 186?
Yes, it is.
And is this zoomed in further?
It is.
And can you describe where the field is in this photo?
Should I go point to it? Would that be easier? Or?
I-
A little bit lower. Yes. Basically, that's the general area.
For the record, it's a little bit below the center of the photograph to the left, and it seems to be below a roadway. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
Investigator Reinerio, were you also asked to wear a Fitbit device in this case?
I was.
Tell us about your Fitbit.
I wore a Fitbit Flex. Basically, I chose a pink one, and it comes with a silicone band, and then it has the little electronic tracker that kind of slides in and out of it. And then it has a clasp, and then it comes with 2 different wristbands, and you can pick whichever one would fit your wrist. There's a larger and a smaller.
And did you read the instructions in the box before wearing it?
I did.
Are Fitbits waterproof?
According to the box, it says they're water resistant. I did look also online, and it says that they're basically splash proof, but that they shouldn't be worn in the shower or for swimming.
Did you wear your Fitbit for a certain length of time?
I did. I guess the time frame that specifically I wanted to look at was the same amount of time that Douglas Dietrich had worn his until the warrant was put through by the state for information from Fitbit.
Were you wearing the same type of Fitbit that Doug Dietrich was?
I was.
And what kind was it again?
A Fitbit Flex.
What precautions did you take to make sure that only you had access to the Fitbit?
Well, as far as the Fitbit itself, I mean, I had it on me, so obviously no one else could have it. But it connected via Bluetooth to your cell phone, and so I had the application on my cell phone, and it basically always stayed up. If you have apps on your phone, maybe like Facebook, you know that it always stays logged in. So I wanted to be sure that it was very secure. So specifically during the month of October, I did not allow anyone else to use my work cell phone, which nobody generally does anyways. But then I made sure it was locked and password protected when I wasn't using it, so no one else could access that. Then also my work computer, basically the same thing. Nobody else really uses it anyways, but I was very careful. And anytime I was away from it, I would make sure that I locked it, and that was also password protected, because the same thing, they could just go into the website and it keeps me logged in.
And what were your results?
I had accurate days and inaccurate days.
Were some inaccurate days worse than others?
Yes.
Can you describe the worst days for us?
Sure. I would say that the first day I really noticed was October 12th, and I didn't even know anything was wrong until I looked at the dashboard, which is kind of what they call your profile, where you can check out your information and see like your steps. I looked at it, I believe, in either late afternoon, early evening, something like that, and it showed that I had only had 4 steps that morning, and that was a Thursday. I had worked that day. It was generally like any other day. I had taken well over 4 steps, so I knew that that was not accurate.
What about the other major errors?
I also had a couple other ones that were major on, I would say it was October 20th and 21st. The first thing I noticed, the 20th was a Friday, was that I woke up in the morning and I had been starting to log like what time I woke up. I wasn't counting my exact steps, but I wanted to know what I was doing kind of at what time. I knew I got up at 5:35 that morning, and then I had tapped my Fitbit before I was going to get in the shower because I was going to take it off before I got in, and 3 of the lights illuminated on my Fitbit. I had only been up for 15 minutes, and basically when I set up my Fitbit, I left it at the standard goal of 10,000 steps per day. So the lights kind of indicate where you are towards that goal, and so each light should be 2,000 steps. So it was saying that I had about 6,000 steps already since I had been up in that 15 minutes. So I was a little bit baffled by that. That would be the first thing that I really noticed. I just let it go, didn't even check my dashboard or anything like that at that point. And then throughout the day, though, I did tap it because I wanted to see if it reset. Basically, at midnight, it should go back to one light to restart for the day. So I tapped it throughout the day, and I believe on that day it was just before 5 o'clock that it had reset back to one light. So then on Saturday, the 21st, in the morning, even before I got out of bed, I wanted to see what it would do. So I tapped it in the morning. Again, I had 2 lights. So I just kept it on that morning. I know I was doing some speed cleaning in my house. And then went to a pumpkin patch with my family. Again, kept tapping it to see if it would reset. I think that day I was walking through a corn maze, and it was like just before 2 that it had reset to one light. So then by that evening, I was very curious what my dashboard said. So I looked at it, and basically it had said on Friday that, which was when I had the 3 lights, that I had about 3,000 steps even before I was awake, which also didn't make sense because it should have been 6,000, somewhere around there per the lights. And then on the 21st, when I had the 2 lights, I would maybe have to refer to my report to remember exactly how many steps I had. But basically, it just showed that I had a significant amount of steps when I did not. And then it was showing pretty much the opposite then. When I wasn't taking steps, it was showing.
So there were some days that your Fitbit device was just largely inaccurate.
Correct. And those were the main days. Like I said, I didn't want to walk around counting my steps all day, so I pretty much just looked at things that really stood out to me.
So there was other minor errors,
Yeah,
but there are also days where your Fitbit was accurate.
correct.
Were there any days where at some point during the day your Fitbit was accurate, but then at different times in the day it was inaccurate?
Yes.
When you experienced some of these errors, what did you do?
The first time,
Just want to make sure the light's on or off. All right, thank you, Attorney Stebbins. We, our sidebar was just, again, to make sure we're not going into an area that would be inadmissible. I think we're on the same page. Go ahead, Attorney Sugar, you can continue with your examination.
Yes, thank you, Judge. So Investigator Reinerio, what would you do when there was these errors on your Fitbit device?
one of the things I did is I would try to consult the Fitbit website. They had something on there called the Fitbit community, which basically was a forum for people to ask questions of other Fitbit users or just suggest activities for other users. They could just basically talk to each other. So I looked for people with similar issues that had maybe asked questions and would go through the answers and just see what they did.
Were there a lot of people on these error forums?
There were quite a few, yes.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Ms. Reinerio, earlier you indicated you are employed as a defense investigator, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you work for the office that employs Mr. Stebbins, Mr. Sugar, and Mr. Cano, correct?
Correct.
And you specifically are assigned to work with them to investigate this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you obviously are there to assist them in their role as advocates for George Burch in this case, correct?
I guess, yes, I think somewhat.
In fact, you've sat through this entire trial sitting next to them, helping them throughout the case, correct?
Correct.
With respect specifically to the Fitbit, where did you purchase that Fitbit?
I actually got it with my cell phone when I signed up for it through Verizon.
And do you know where it came from? Do you know who was who provided it?
I would assume that they had a deal with Fitbit.
When did you get it?
I would say that probably would have been about 2015 maybe,
So
but I
it's-
hadn't used it.
Okay, so it sat in the package unused for 2 years.
It did.
The first day you wore this device ever was September 26th of 2017?
Correct.
And the last day you ever wore it was October 22nd of 2017?
No, it wasn't.
When was the last day that you wore it?
It would have been sometime in January.
So while you provided in your report a snapshot of some issues that you were having with the Fitbit between September 26th and October 22nd of 2017, you did not provide a report regarding your wearing the device between October 22nd and January of 2018?
I did not. I was specifically looking at the same time frame that Doug Dietrich had his on. He had installed the application April 25th, and the search warrant was from May 20th through the 22nd. So I was looking at the same time frame. So I installed mine September 26th, and then I was looking at about the third week of October.
And did you provide the same level of monitoring and record keeping with respect to the subsequent months that you wore it?
I would say somewhat, yes.
So were you looking for the worst period of time that you could find with respect to how well the device functioned?
No, not necessarily. I was looking at the same period of time that he had his on.
And did you look at that 3 different times then? That 26-day period on not only September through October, but also through November, through December and January?
I continued to look at it.
But you weren't looking for the worst 26-day period?
I mean, that was the worst time that I had it on altogether.
So between September 26th of 2017 and January of 2018, the issues that you were pointing out that occurred in October of 2017, that was the worst that the Fitbit functioned?
Correct.
In addition to the Fitbit that you talked about in this case and in your report, have you worn any other Fitbit devices?
I have not.
You didn't wear Doug Dietrich's actual Fitbit device, correct?
Correct.
Did you take a video recording of your activities to compare to the dashboard data?
I did not.
There's an app that's installed on your smartphone that goes with the Fitbit device, correct?
Correct.
Did you conduct a forensic download of your cell phone and provide that data to the state to clarify the information that was on your phone?
I did not.
Did you request or subpoena records from Fitbit to compare to the report that you provided here today?
Not for myself. I had tried for Doug Dietrich, and they wouldn't provide it without a search warrant, and I can only do a subpoena.
And you did not attempt to do that for your own device?
I did not. I had already failed the one time.
With respect to those photographs that you're being shown earlier, is it 185 and 186?
Yes.
Can I take a look at those?
Sure.
You know where you located these on Doug Dietrich's phone?
In the images section of the extraction.
Are you an expert in cell phone forensic downloads?
I'm not.
In fact, have you done any forensic downloads of a cell phone yourself?
I have not.
How many times in your career have you reviewed forensic downloads of cell phones?
Quite a few, I would say. Maybe 20.
Do you know in what specific section of images you located those images?
It was just in the images section.
How many other mapped cached images did you see in Doug Dietrich's cell phone?
There were quite a few.
There were about 1,800, weren't there?
Not maps, no. There were about 1,800 images total. Of maps, there may have been less than 100.
There were over 17,000 images.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Cell
missed.
phone, correct?
Yes, there were.
There were 1,800 cached images from Google Maps on Doug Dietrich's cell phone, correct?
I guess I'm not aware of that. I do not know.
There were a lot of cached images from Google Maps on Doug Dietrich's cell phone.
There were quite a few. Some were images, some were actual, like, maps.
Do you know how the Google Maps application works?
Not necessarily.
Do you know if the Google Maps application caches every image of every search that you do when you have the app running?
It might. I don't know.
And you picked out the 2 images that you thought suited the needs of Mr. Burch in this case, did you not?
Those were just two that I saw that did connect to this case, yes.
And you have no date stamps for when those images were taken?
No, I did attempt to find some, but I was unable to.
Because in fact, they were just filled in with cached images from the Google Maps application among well over 1,000 similar images.
That could be.
And you're aware that Doug Dietrich and his family are developers of real estate in this area, correct?
Yes.
You were asked to walk the East River Trail in this case, correct?
I was.
You were asked whether or not you had reviewed the information in this case. You've looked at cell phones. You've been part of this investigation from very early on in the case, correct?
Yes, since after the preliminary hearing, but yes.
You're not aware of any single witness statement that places Doug Dietrich on the East River Trail, correct?
Correct.
Nobody saw him there. No surveillance camera observed him on the East River Trail, correct?
Not that I know of.
There's no physical evidence, DNA, blood of any type that ties Doug Dietrich to the East River Trail.
No, we were just looking at different routes.
So this is something that's invented by the defense.
Objection, argument.
Sustained.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
Thank you, Judge. So you've heard all the testimony here in this case, and you yourself have now provided more testimony about what a Fitbit is than any state witness, correct?
Objection, that's likewise argumentative.
Sustained. Next question.
When you were looking at Doug Dietrich's phone extraction, what was the tab, what was the file called when you looked at that section where you found those photos?
Images. It was just under images.
Were there images of Doug Dietrich himself on there?
There were some, yes.
Were there other just normal photos that you would see?
Yes.
And then of all those images, Doug Dietrich had a photo of the field where Nicole's body was found, correct?
Objecting, Your Honor. She's not in a position to classify that it is a photo of that field. She doesn't have the technical background to testify how that image got on that phone. There's over 17,000 images. She doesn't know how applications save and create images. She doesn't have the background to do that.
Judge, she testified that, and this came from the state, it's under images, it's right under there, that's what she's testifying to, that it is under that framing of images on Doug Dietrich's phone.
She doesn't have the expertise, and neither does the court. It's an image of the field. Image, picture, I don't see this, the distinction. I'll overrule the objection.
You found those photos, correct?
Correct.
And then again, there's no surveillance even available on the East River Trail that could have caught Doug Dietrich, correct?
Not that I saw.
Nothing further.
Any redirect, Attorney Lissy?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. May step down. Your next witness, counsel.
Judge, the defense has no more witnesses at this time.
Defense is resting.
Yes, Judge.
All right. Attorney Lissy, does the state have any rebuttal witnesses?
We do, Your Honor.
Are you prepared at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go right ahead.
The state calls Daniel Frankel.
Mr. Frankel. Mr. Frankel, good morning. You can come forward, step to the witness stand. Madam Clerk will swear you in.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Daniel Allen Frankel, Frankel.
Thank you.
Mr. Frankel, you may be seated, and if you just pull yourself close to that bar, that's actually the microphone.
Okay.
Then Attorney Lissy, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Frankel, can you state for the record how you are employed?
I am employed from Progressive Insurance.
And what is your role with Progressive Insurance?
I am an application programmer lead for Progressive Insurance.
Can you describe what an application programmer lead does?
An application programmer lead can have a variety of duties, largely kind of overseeing specialty applications. In my case, I work in the snapshot area.
How long have you been with Progressive?
I've been with Progressive 20 years.
And as your current position, has that always been your position with Progressive?
It has not. I've been in that position since March of 2010, so 8 years, almost 8 years.
And what are your primary job duties with respect to your current role?
My primary job duties are working with our physical snapshot device, working with our vendor, which produces and supplies the device, working with our business partners at Progressive to ensure that the requirements and functionality of the device are what Progressive wants. I also work on designing and implementing and maintaining the software which the device communicates with and interprets the data from the device.
Are you also responsible for quality control with respect to that device in the application?
Yes.
And what is a Progressive snapshot device?
A Progressive snapshot device is a small, we kind of consider it a passive listening device. You plug it into the OBD2 port or onboard diagnostic port of your car, the same type of port that is used by mechanics to diagnose like check engine lights. You plug the device in and the device will determine that it's been powered up, and then it will start reading OBD2 data when the vehicle is started. It will read the speed data, read the VIN, various things like that. It will gather speed data over time. Then when the ignition of the vehicle shut off, the device senses that and then transmits that data wirelessly to Progressive.
And that transmission with Progressive, how is that made? How is the information communicated from the device to Progressive?
It uses a cellular network and then communicates to servers at the back end at Progressive.
And how is the data stored at Progressive?
It is stored in a secure database.
And is that information that's stored at Progressive on its database, is that accessible to the customer?
No. The data is accessible to the customer in a read-only fashion.
So can a customer or end user of this device manipulate or change that data through some sort of interface with Progressive?
No.
What's the primary purpose of a snapshot device?
The snapshot device is used to provide a discount so that people can, we can use their driving data and kind of customize the rate for the insured. If you're a good driver, you can get a good discount. We also use it to help promote safe driving.
And the types of data, again, that are captured by this snapshot device are what?
The device can capture the VIN if it's available from the vehicle electronically. It will capture speed data 1 second at a time, and then it also can sense when it's been powered up and when it's been powered down.
Is the device able to detect whether or not it is in fact plugged into the car's computer?
Yes.
And does it actually log when it is plugged in and unplugged?
Yes.
If the device itself is malfunctioning, is there a way that is noted?
There is, yes.
That's the type of data that your company collects and maintains?
Correct, yes.
How is that noted?
We have records that the device transmits to us, and then those are stored in a similar location, a stored database.
Based on your current position with Progressive and your experience with the snapshot application and program, do you have an ability to talk about the accuracy of this device?
I do.
And what is that based on?
That is based on my 8 years of working with the device. We have the device registered to be used, or this program, the snapshot program, to be used in 48 states in the United States, plus the District of Columbia. We've captured over 20 billion miles of driving data with the device.
And as part of your overall work with the program and evaluation of the program, one of the things you're asked to look at is how accurate it is?
Correct.
And if there are problems with the program, is it part of your role to address and fix those problems?
Yes.
As part of your role with Progressive, were you asked to review records that had been requested by the Brown County Sheriff's Office with respect to the Progressive Snapshot device that was installed on Nicole Vanderheiden's Buick Rendezvous with a VIN number 3G5DB03EX4S514754?
Yes, that is correct.
And are you aware that there were two separate requests made by the Brown County Sheriff's Office for records in this case?
Yes.
And the first set of records was looking for the activity data from that vehicle between May 15th of 2016 and May 23rd of 2016?
Yes,
And you have had an opportunity to review those records?
that is correct.
Based on your role with Progressive, do you believe those records that were provided are the types of records that are maintained in the regular course of Progressive's business?
Yes.
And do you believe, based on your role with Progressive, that they are a truthful and accurate representation of the records from Progressive's system?
Yes.
Judge, may I approach the state briefly?
You may, I'll turn off the microphones. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we were talking about some foundation issues. I think we have an agreement as to how to proceed, and Attorney Lassay, you can continue with your examination.
Mr. Frankel, I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 187. Can you review those documents?
Yes. Okay.
And Mr. Frankel, what is Exhibit 187?
187 is a summary of trip data gathered by device serial number P236181M.
And that is the device that was installed in the Buick Rendezvous with the VIN number that I referenced earlier?
Yes.
And what does that data say with respect to the activity of that vehicle between May 15th and May 20th of 2016?
The data shows that the vehicle was driven a number of times between May 15th and May 20th.
Is there any data for that vehicle after May 20th of 2016?
There is no driving data here after 5/20/16 at 12:51 p.m.
And again, the request was made for data through May 23rd of 2016, correct?
Correct.
And there's no data after May 20th of 2016 because based on that device's recording, there is no recorded activity after May 20th, 2016, correct?
There is no recorded activity after May 20th.
In addition, you are aware that there was a second subpoena that was sent requesting specific information about the device being connected or disconnected during a relevant time frame, and the request for the disconnect information was May 20th, 2016 through June 30th of 2016. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're aware that Progressive did provide records responsive to that request?
Yes,
In fact, you were the individual who certified the authenticity of those records?
that is correct.
And these are the types of records that are maintained in the regular course of Progressive business?
Correct.
May I look at one, Mr. Frankel, can I look at Exhibit 187?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Frankel, I'm showing you what's been described as exhibit, or what's been marked as Exhibit 188. Can you review those records for me?
Yes.
And, Mr. Frankel, the last page of that, or excuse me, what is Exhibit 188?
Exhibit 188 is a summary of what we call event records. Those show when the device has read the VIN off the vehicle, as well as connection and disconnection from power.
And on the last page of those records, there is an entry from May 20th of 2016 at 12:21 p.m. and another entry at Actually, there's an event time from May 20th, 2016 at 12:21 p.m., is that correct?
Correct.
And what is that entry?
That entry is reading the protocol VIN, the VIN number from the vehicle.
Indicates that it is connected at that time?
Yes.
And when is the next date that that device was disconnected from the vehicle?
According to our data, the device was disconnected at 4:25 a.m. on June 1st, 2016.
If the device had been disconnected from the vehicle prior to June 1st of 2016 at 4:25 a.m., would that information have been logged?
That information would be logged.
And even if the vehicle was powered down at that time, in between May 20th, 2016 and June 1st of 2016, would it have logged retroactively that it had been unplugged from the vehicle?
Yes, the device holds a timer of when it is active, and then if it loses power, it knows the latest date that it had power, so that when it's plugged in again, then it can generate the disconnection record.
So based on these records, the device was plugged into the vehicle on May 20th of 2016 and remained plugged in until June 1st of 2016, correct?
According to these records, correct.
And in summation on the previous records, you indicated that the last time that that vehicle was operated within the relevant time frame was May 20th of 2016.
Correct.
And the vehicle was not operated on May 21st of 2016.
According to the data, no.
If you no further questions, I would move for admission of the exhibits, Your Honor.
Subject to cross, any objections to 187 and 188?
No, Judge.
187 and 188 are received. Cross-examination?
Judge, may I just briefly look at the most recent exhibit before I begin questioning?
Go right ahead. I think Mr. Frankel has it.
I've just been provided a copy. by the
All right.
state. Thank you, Mr. Frankel. Could you remind me again how the information is transmitted from the actual snapshot device to Progressive?
Yes, it is transmitted wirelessly.
Through what?
Through cellular technology.
So it relies on cell signals.
Correct.
And cell signals sometimes weaken,
They do?
sometimes they go out completely.
That is correct.
And if that were the case, then the snapshot device could not be communicating, I guess, transportation logs to Progressive.
The device holds on to the data so that if it can't communicate, it will try a certain number of times, and then it will hold on to that data until it's the next appropriate time to call.
And so the next appropriate time to call, that would be the next time that the device is used?
We do have check-in calls that the device does. There are also calls where the device, it can go into a low power mode, so not to drain a battery. So it does that after a 24-hour period, and then at a 5-day interval, the device checks in.
So say for example, in this specific case, the snapshot device is registering activity on the vehicle on May 20th of 2016, that's correct, right?
Correct.
If the cellular signal, I guess, weakened or went out during that time frame, hypothetically, it would not be able to, at that moment, communicate the information to Progressive.
Correct.
And then if the device is never used again or never activated again, that would never be, I guess, backed up.
If the device were never used again, correct.
I think you said part of your job is to, I guess, did you say you monitor like the data collection nationwide?
We monitor the data collection. I mean, that's not a daily function of my position. My position is ensuring before the device goes to the customer, the integrity of the device, and then if issues were to arise, then I get involved.
So issues do arise.
Issues do arise.
People are, with Progressive, are dedicated to detecting those issues
Correct.
and then remedying those issues.
Correct.
How many different versions of a snapshot device have there been?
We are working on our 8th major version.
And are the newer versions designed to eliminate some of the problems with earlier versions?
We continually evolve to get better, yes.
The signals that the snapshot device transmits, are those encrypted signals?
Those are proprietary, encoded.
Is that a yes or a no?
There's semantics involved in what is encryption versus encoding.
Okay.
They're not human readable.
But humans can use computers and other devices to read those signals, obviously.
Correct.
Prior to coming here today, have you reviewed all of the snapshot records for this particular snapshot?
I have reviewed all the records for this device.
Are you aware of when it was first plugged in?
Off the top of my head, I am not.
Are you aware of how many times it was disconnected from the vehicle?
It was, I don't have that information in front of me. I can access that information, but I don't have that information in front of me.
Are you aware that it's been disconnected before?
Yes.
I have no further questions, thank you.
Any redirect?
Just briefly, I want to clarify, Mr. Frankel, you were asked about if the device doesn't have a cellular signal available to it to transmit. The data in terms of the activities of the vehicle remains logged according to the correct date on the device itself until it can transmit the signal, correct?
That is correct.
So even if the transmission doesn't occur until days later when the device is now powered on again, it's still going to log the correct data as to date of usage, date of disconnect, etc.
That is correct.
So the fact that it can't reach a signal at a particular moment does not affect the integrity of the activity log, correct?
That is correct.
No further questions.
Any recross?
At what point does the device start transmitting information?
At what point is the...
Like, is it the engine running, ignition powered?
No, it is after the trip is complete.
So how does it know when to start recording?
It senses a spike in voltage due to the alternator and an indication of RPM.
So again, is that, at what point would you say in the key turning process? When accessories are turned on, when the engine turns over, when the battery starts sending signals to the engine?
When the alternator spikes the voltage, and it can sense that.
So if someone were to have tried to start the vehicle after May 20th, you would have been able to detect that?
Only if it would have met the criteria for the device to register that it was in a trip.
I have no further questions, thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Frankel, I am going to exercise my discretion. I'm going to ask a question. It's totally irrelevant to the issues in this case, but I had never heard of a snapshot. And my question is, if you don't know what the speed limits are, how does the speed data that Progressive receives determine if somebody is a safe driver?
We use braking data, so we get the speed over time, and then we derive braking data from that, and then that has been seen to be predictive in loss.
So it's the braking data?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. As long as you're here, I thought I'd ask that question. All right. Thank you, Mr. Frankel. Your excuse. You may step down. Any other rebuttal witnesses, Attorney Lassay?
State calls Richard Lopnow to the stand.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Detective Lopnow, if you come forward, promise us to speak nice and loud. Jody will swear you in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Richard Loppnow, L-O-P-P-N-O-W.
Detective Lopnow, obviously the jury's heard from you in the past. Calling you specifically with respect to evidence in this case, you are aware that some items of clothing were recovered from the side of the road on Highway 172 on May 22nd of 2016, is that right?
Yes, I am.
And you're aware that that property was maintained in custody at the Brown County Sheriff's Office, is that correct?
Yes.
Those items included a pair of pants belonging to Nicole Vanderheiden, is that right?
Yes.
I would simply ask that Detective Loffnau be allowed to access and display those pants for the jury.
Any objection to that?
May we approach?
Ladies and gentlemen, our sidebar had to do with the displaying of what was going to be displayed at this time through Detective Lopnow. So I think we've resolved that, and then if Attorney Lassay may go right ahead and present the articles to Detective Lopnow.
Your Honor, is that the other name in the bag?
No.
I do believe that they need to be marked as an exhibit and displayed. Sergeant Lockdown, I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 189. Can you identify what that exhibit is?
Exhibit 189 is the black pair of pants that was located on the side of Highway 172 near UV in May of 2016. It was subsequently entered into evidence by Lieutenant Valley.
I know they're in a plastic bag, and there's also a paper bag in there. Can you describe just what that is?
There's actually 2 other paper bags in that bag. Those are the bags that the pants had been previously bagged in. We have opened them several times for viewing purposes.
And because of that, you maintained the bags that they had been stored in originally?
Yes.
I would move for admission of that exhibit and then ask that Sergeant Locknow be able to publish. Because the evidence contains potential DNA evidence, I would ask that in order to maintain the integrity, that he simply be allowed to walk the item over toward the jury and show it to them, rather than allowing the jury to actually handle the material.
Just walk left and right in front of the jury. Is that what you're proposing?
Correct.
All right, subject to cross, any objection to 189?
No.
Right, 189 is received, and it can be published in that fashion, Detective Lopnow.
Could we ask that Detective Slinger assist simply for the purposes of making sure that the item's integrity is maintained?
Maintain the integrity of the item. Go right ahead, Detective Slinger. All right, that's fine. Any other questions, Attorney Lassay?
Sergeant Lopnow, based on your prior experience in investigating violent crimes, are you familiar with what dried blood looks like?
Yes.
And based on that training and experience, does the staining on the pants appear to be consistent with dried blood?
Yes, it is.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Sergeant Lopno, was there also underwear found on
There
the
was.
side of 172?
Yes.
Did they have what appeared to be dried blood on them?
Yes, there was.
Would you define it as quite a bit of blood?
From what I recall, there was quite a bit of soaking of those underwear, yes.
Do you remember whose DNA the male major contributor was on the interior and exterior of that underwear?
No, I don't.
Same question for the tank top. Was there a tank top found on the side of 172?
Yes, there was.
Was there blood on the tank top?
I believe there was some blood, yes.
Do you remember whose DNA was on that?
Not without reviewing the reports off the top of my head.
Do you have those two items of clothing here right now that we could show the jury?
The underwear are actually with this item. They were put in as one item, so they are still in one of the paper bags that was originally bagged in here.
I would ask to publish that, Judge.
Well, it's part of, how do you want to mention this or label this? We have the paper bag, which has been identified as 189, which is the black pair of pants. Do you want the underwear to be 190?
That would make sense.
All right, then why don't we, with the understanding that 189 is the black pair of pants, and 190 is going to be the underwear. They're both contained in this plastic bag, and subject to redirect any objection to 190. The 190 will be received, and it can be published in a similar fashion to the jury.
May I step down to assist with that?
Yes, if you would remove the underwear from the plastic bag, and then you and Detective Slinger can show it to the jury. Yes, if you'd publish those, or that item at this time.
Just like me to turn them inside out? No? Okay.
All right, 190 has been received, and it's now been published to the jury.
And I would just ask that it be admitted in evidence as well if it hasn't.
If it hasn't, 190 is received and admitted into evidence. Okay, you may retake the witness stand, Detective Lopnow. Any other cross-examination?
No.
Right. Any redirect?
You You were asked, Sergeant Lopnow, about the pants, the underwear, the tank top. There was also an outer shirt, a blouse that was found belonging to Ms. Vanderheiden as well, correct?
Yes.
And that item also had substantial blood staining on it, did it not?
Yes, it did.
No further questions.
Any recross?
No.
Thank you, Detective. Let me step down once again.
Yeah, I have the opportunity to see these items.
Yes. Yes, you may. Why don't we see if, are there any other rebuttal witnesses at this time?
One other witness, but if you could take a moment to seal it.
Then go right ahead.
Images portion of Douglas Dietrich's forensic download, or the forensic download of Douglas Dietrich's phone. Are you the individual who reviewed the, or have you reviewed the forensic download of Douglas Dietrich's phone?
Yes, I have.
Are you familiar with the categorizations within the Cellebrite software, particularly the categorization of image?
Yes, I am.
Can you describe what types of things are categorized as images during those forensic downloads?
Any file with a file type of image, whether it be file extension JPEG, PNG, any image would be categorized in the images category.
So if something is in the images section of Cellebrite, does that mean that it has to be something that's captured through the photo app on the phone?
No, it does not.
It could potentially be captured through a different application on the phone?
Yes,
Is one of those applications Google Maps?
correct.
Could you describe how the Google Maps application works and how those images are stored on the cell phone?
Absolutely. So if at any time Google Maps application had generated this type of image for use in any kind of navigation or aerial viewing, it would then cache that image or place it in a temporary directory so that if the app had to recall that image at a later time, it wouldn't have to regenerate it or recreate it.
Is that something that a user would have to engage in order to save that in cache?
No, it is not.
So the application would do that automatically if a user was a map in that particular area using the Maps application?
That's correct.
Did you have an opportunity to review the forensic download from Doug Dietrich's phone to determine how many such cached Google images there were?
Yes, I was.
And how many?
1,857.
And how many images overall were recovered from Doug Dietrich's cell phone download?
Over 17,000.
No further questions.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, briefly. Officer Balian, so you basically just said that, so within the extraction, there's a folder entitled Images.
It's not necessarily a folder, it's a category on the left side of the navigation panel of the Cellebrite report reader.
And the state just elicited testimony from you that images are in the image part of the extraction?
That's correct.
And those images include images that were part of previous Google Map searches?
That's correct.
So that, again, it didn't have to be regenerated the next time that the user looked at it?
That's correct.
So basically, it makes it easier for the user to look at the same image.
Can you repeat the question, please?
If someone were to search Google Maps again, the image wouldn't have to reload because it's already loaded on the phone.
It wouldn't have to recreate that image. It would have to reload that specific image into the application.
Okay. And how many satellite images did you say were on Mr. Dietrich's phone?
1,857.
And those are all satellite images
That's correct.
of that area and other areas in this part of the state?
Can you repeat the question?
What were those images of?
They were aerial images of maps.
Lots of aerial images,
Correct.
including those two images on exhibit, I believe, 186 and 187,
That's correct.
and the surrounding area.
That's correct.
No further questions.
Thank you, Attorney Stebbins. Attorney Lasani, redirect.
And just to clarify, Google generates these maps themselves when the application is running, whether it's looking for directions or whether it's looking for a map, correct?
That's correct.
So the fact that there's 1,800 images from Google Maps simply suggests that the user potentially utilizes GPS on a regular basis.
That's correct.
He doesn't actually call up those images that you have available. He wouldn't recall those specific images from his phone. The user wouldn't do that.
No.
It's just something Google does to basically help itself when the app is in use.
Yes, it just allows the application to recall previously loaded images for sake of speed and ease in the application.
So that the application can work more smoothly.
That's correct.
Was there any way from the way in which these are stored to determine the date that a particular image was accessed?
There's not.
No further questions.
Any recross?
Just briefly, Officer Balin, those specific images are mostly fields, is that correct? With some roadways?
That's correct.
And a lot of those images on the phone were mostly fields.
That's correct.
Is it common for GPS to direct people through fields?
Can you repeat your question? I guess I don't understand what you mean by that.
The state was asking if someone uses GPS, Google Maps on their phone, that it collects these satellite images. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In your experience as an officer and in your own personal life, when you use Google Maps or a GPS, does it often take you through fields?
In a driving route, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
It would not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Officer Bailing, thank you. You may step down again. Any other rebuttal witnesses? Attorney Lassay?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any witnesses from the defense?
No, thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we've put in a good half a morning, and both parties are now concluded with the presentation of their evidence. So we're going to take our mid-morning break. We have to, we had our instruction conference, informal instruction conference at the end of the evening, or at the end of the day yesterday. We have to go over that again formally this morning. It shouldn't take that long. I anticipate we'll be, the court will be giving you the legal instructions soon, and then we'll, I think, go right into our closing arguments. So I'm kind of giving you a heads up that we'll probably be out here in court through the noon hour. So we'll give you a little extra break at this time, and when we're ready to go back on the record, we'll bring you back into the courtroom, all right?